Have you been stressed, anxious, or worried? Have you felt pangs of loneliness in recent times? Are you longing for greater connection with others in the world around you? In a phrase, are you looking for happiness? You are not alone. Millions of others are seeking this feeling of spiritual, mental, and physical wellness too. This podcast explores the underlying causes of unhappiness and shares with us the secrets of rewriting the frequent thoughts and redirecting the common behaviors that keep us in that state. Join forensic psychologist and best-selling author Dr. Neehall and her guests as they dive deep in the realm of psychological wellness and explore ways of finding happiness on demand.
It's my pleasure and privilege to introduce this dynamic woman to us today, listeners. Tanja wears several hats, and I'm curious with each and every one of them, but let me just highlight a couple of them to you. She's a business and life strategist, a trauma recovering specialist, a TEDx speaker on the international platform several times, a speaker coach, workshop facilitator, ghostwriter, creator of Modern Tantra, podcast developer on the same topic, and international best-selling author. So without further ado, Tanja, welcome, and thank you for taking time from your busy schedule to be with us.
I am super excited to be here. Thanks, and it's an honor and privilege.
Well, my baby is happiness, and that's what we're focusing on, and I'm sure you can share a lot of your insights with us. So please enlighten us.
Oh, about being happy? Absolutely. Well, I was not always a happy person. I will tell you that. I am autistic and grew up in a family of that moved every 6 months to a year, always in different school systems, different places all over the world. And I found life pretty confusing and confronting in a lot of ways. And so I think I was pretty analytical and mostly driven to see the bad potentials. So I'm that person that always looks at patterns and things like that and goes, oh, wow, what are all the potential pitfalls and horrible things that could happen here? So that's definitely how I spent most of my time, is looking out for danger and potential problems, because I didn't really trust anybody else to keep me from those things. And so I think that happiness to me was definitely something that I learned. I mean, I had a great time in life. I had lots of fun too, but I was, like I said, that was colored with the I could die. Like, I was an international horse show jumper when I was a kid. And I would be sitting there at the start gate like, this is awesome. And in the back of my head, I'd go, and you could die. This is insane. And my mom, I think, was my mother was a big reason that I was able to lean more into that excitement phase. Because when I was scared of things, she would find a solution for me to actually see the excitement on the other side of fear and the other side of worry. Like, if I just moved into that uncomfort zone, just safely, a little bit at a time, I would see the excitement and the fun and the fulfillment on the other side. So I think I know the fact that she was a great advocate for me to have a little bit of a different viewpoint in life. Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
That's interesting, what you talk about there, because you're talking about being autistic. Have you heard about Temple Grandin, who also was autistic, and what she did with her life? What I have found in my work is that autistic people are usually highly intelligent.
Yeah. Well, I'm an autistic polymath. And so one of those, and a lot of people don't know what polymath means, which is somebody who is on the bright side, who actually masters and excels at multiple disciplines across a wide range of topics, which is why you were saying, and she does this and she does this. My friends are always like, well, what don't you do? If I'm interested in a topic, I read 3,000 words a minute at an 85% comprehension rate. And so I will be a supercomputer, dive into that subject and bore everybody, because I love to disseminate information more than anybody wants to hear, just saying.
That's great. And there were some other things you were going to share with us about your own journey and the things you've developed?
Yeah, well, absolutely. So because I was autistic and I did have a lot of childhood trauma other than being autistic, which is traumatic enough if nobody understands you. Yeah, just developmentally in school, because I read so fast, I didn't parse letters, A, B, C, D. That didn't mean anything to me. I was snapshot reading at 4. I got to school and they thought I was developmentally delayed because I couldn't figure out the ABCs. I couldn't figure out what people were doing with those things. Like, what are these things? When you just read like boom, like that, these things don't mean anything. So lots of definitely trauma until about 6th grade when a teacher said, I'll do some testing on you, and skip me to 9th grade. So that was a lot of fun. But along the way with trauma and just different things, I realized that just going out in the world and trying to get help didn't work very well. And I'm sure you're as intelligent as you are, you're aware of this. It's like, if I tried to talk with somebody or get professional help from somebody that wasn't as smart as I was, it was very difficult for me to respect the process.
Of course.
If they didn't meet me, because one of your specialties is that whole build the rapport, really find out about somebody, not just go down some script.
Correct. And each person is different.
Right. And, we say that, but yet I've been to plenty of people that just completely script exactly what they're going to do. And that doesn't work for me. I don't know that it works for anybody, but it definitely doesn't work for me because I already had studied it all. So when you study all the things that your therapist or somebody's talking about, and maybe not as much because you don't have the experience, but you certainly know where they're going with it. I'm like, oh, this is making me crazy. I've tried all that already. What do you have that's new? Which, of course, is why I love your work.
It's interesting because from your perspective, then it's almost like reading a whodunit, but you've got to the end already.
Yes.
Until at the beginning. What a mismatch. How did you survive in school with that?
Right. That is the question. Well, I was either loved by teachers or hated by teachers, one or the other, because if they made a mistake, of course, I was always nice to point it out to them too, which nobody was a fan of that. But I think the hardest thing was knowing that I needed help. Like, I was smart enough to realize, I called it, they call people like me, I don't know why, 2E, twice exceptional, right? Neurodivergent and bright. I call it twice screwed. You're screwed up and you're too smart to know or figure out that somebody else can help you, right? So that's like a problem. So I looked, talked to people, read without Google, was reading through thousands of library textbooks on all sorts of trauma, psychology, cognitive behavior, whatever was there, I was reading it, PTSD. And it wasn't.
How old were you when you were reading these books?
Oh, like 14, 15, 16, 17.
Okay, listeners, listen up, because we can all learn from Tanja. There are people on the autistic spectrum who fall between the cracks. That's what you're talking to us about.
Yes. Yeah, because people saw me as verbal. So the autism thing didn't show up until years and years and years later. I was verbal, in fact, verbose. And so all the other characteristics I had were not seen, because back when I was growing up, especially in Africa and different countries I was growing up, we didn't even talk about autism. That was never, neurodivergence wasn't even a thing in my life. So
the emotional part of Tanja was not dealt with.
Correct. Tanja was told to stop talking so much, sit still, stop fidgeting, stop being a know-it-all, stop. All my gifts I was constantly told to stop. And I was bored out of my mind in school and college because I'd already read all the textbooks and read all the stuff, and I was ready to do something bigger or something different. So it was hard. It was either straight A's and 100%, or it was, crash and burn, didn't do anything because I couldn't stand it. So really varied until I got to boarding school. My last 2 years were in boarding school. And there I had a couple of professors that were, you think you know that? Okay, fine. Here's your create a special project for yourself. I was in heaven. I wrote all about how I couldn't stand Kurt Vonnegut Jr. and why. Because my English teacher loved Kurt Vonnegut Jr. And I was like, I think he is awful. So I got to write all about how I couldn't stand Kurt Vonnegut Jr. But yeah, there was no real, every school I went to was like a college prep, get ready for the mainstream. And I'm not mainstream. So that was really hard. College was worse. There was no happiness to be found anywhere there, because that's go in the big room and listen to all these people lecture or not, like on topics that I'd already read like 10 years ago. So it was a struggle. And it wasn't until I realized I went through some esoteric training, meditation, what we considered weird alternative stuff like 50 years ago. I'm 63.
Now the thing is, mindfulness is important. People are now discovering how important it is.
Right. So when I got tracked onto that and realized that the somatic body holds memories and trauma, and started to understand that what I really needed to do was understand my neurobiology. I needed to understand the chemistry that was working within my body and how I could best harness that. One, regulate my chemistry by somatic practices. Two, if I regulated my chemistry.
Stop with that point just for a second and tell us a little bit more about that in case people don't know what somatic practices are.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. So somatic practices are more body work related. It might be that you're doing breath work. It might be that you're actually sitting in a certain posture, releasing certain muscles like your psoas muscle. In different ancient practices, the psoas is considered the seat of the soul. The psoas attaches your upper body to the front of your leg. And if it's contracted, like how we sit all day, that contraction actually causes your nervous system to feel fight or flight. So really learning about the parasympathetic nervous system, understanding how our body postures, how our muscle tension affects our chemistry, and how our chemical soup, all the things that are made us, can affect us in different ways. Mm-hmm. And being autistic, I'm affected a little bit differently than a lot of people. For instance, if you and I had a word with each other, let's say you just looked at me disappointed, I would immediately think the entire world was about to die. Like the heightened response that I have to something that's just very banal, just very plain, is way over the top.
That's interesting that you should say that, because with some of the patients I work with, they go from 0 to 100% in catastrophizing. And that's what you're saying that you did. Yeah.
Exactly. Not mentally, but physically, I would be as though a meteor was about to wipe out our entire species. We're all just going to die. And it was probably all my fault.
And how did you resolve that?
And so that was learning that my somatic response, that's a chemical response that happens way faster than I can even think and reason, because that's happening in an instant, was that I would understand, I would feel that. I trained myself that when I had a big response, to start vagus nerve breathing. And vagus nerve is that long nerve, right? The longest nerve in your body, starts in the face, goes all the way through all your organs. And if it's out of kilter or a little bit off or set to be in fight and flight mode, you're more reactive. And there's a breath with a very short, gentle 2 inhale through the nose and a long pursed lip exhale to the count of 8, that if you repeat that, you end up down regulating your vagus nerve, and your chemistry will follow suit. So you can take yourself out of that fight or flight mode fairly quickly, especially if you practice that breath daily, multiple times daily. Your body wants to heal. It does not want to be in anxiety or fight or flight mode. When you give it tools, somatic tools, to start to know that they're there and available, you'll find yourself eventually actually using it without knowing it, because your body went to grab it when your anxiety started to raise. So your body wants to heal. That connection, that body actually has more wisdom than your head does generally.
And that's been proven in the literature.
Yeah. And, it took a while. It took a while to catch up. But yeah, that's been around. And those are those ancient techniques that have been teaching us things like that for 2,000 plus years. And science is now in the last, 3 decades or something, like going, oh, yeah, here's why it works. Here's how it works. Here's the proof behind it.
But isn't that always the case at times? I mean, I know always is an error in logic, but I mean, our grandmother told us about bone broth before children.
Right? I mean, I remember my mom hating plastic. She used to be the, oh my gosh, you're not eating out of plastic. I hate plastic. And as it proves out, we're ingesting a credit card's worth of microplastics regularly now. And she was already talking about that. She died 33 years ago. She was talking about that 60 years ago. So it is interesting that some of these old wives' tales or ancient practices actually aren't alternative. They're actually mainstream, and we're pretending they're alternative.
And we call it a scientific breakthrough today.
Right. So, when I started in using those somatic practices, even as easy as just laying back and opening up your entire chest and your eyes, opening up your eyes and laying back and opening the front of your body, that changes, that posture changes your chemistry. It changes what's happening in your body. And so I started investigating more and more of those. Eventually, I came up with a protocol that resolved my trauma, that allowed me to be this person that nobody thinks is autistic without masking, just being in the world. And if I ever have a situation that feels dire, my body is trained, my body trained itself to kick in and grab the best mechanism to downregulate as soon as possible, because I know this is not an emergency. So I'm really great in emergencies now. But,
something a lot of listeners can learn. I think we can all learn from your experience.
Well, if we understood that we actually have way more control and input into how we are physiologically, and our subconscious mind can be trained and our neural pathways can change. We're not stuck anywhere, because there's nothing in the laws of nature that's stuck. We're the only thing that gets stuck. And the reasons we do that is because of programming and patterning, right? That 97% of your subconscious mind that is programmed from childhood that you think is you have free will when you don't. That's always scary for people. You're just running patterns and programs, but you can break those up. You can use the ones that work well, and you can change the ones that don't work well. But being the master of your chemistry, understanding how your fight or flight mechanism works, understanding how you can downregulate your nervous system, and your body wants to. That's the cool thing, is your body wants to heal. It desperately wants to feel regulated.
So that reminds me of a story, actually, of this woman. As a little child at age 4, her mother thought she was doing a barbecue, put lighter fluid on the barbecue, threw some more because it wasn't igniting, and then there was this huge explosion. The mother runs for safety and leaves the little 4-year-old there to suffer burns and everything else. The child recovers, and later on, this is a true story, that the woman gets married, and by mistake, she's making coffee one morning, and the husband mistakenly throws everything on her and on himself. And his first response is to grab his wife, grab her, and take her out. And from that, she learned that people will not abandon her in a moment of crisis. And that's what you're talking about too.
Exactly. If all, your subconscious mind is looking to keep you alive. What are the prime directives? Procreation and survival, right? And so the reptile part of our brain, that base part of our brain, is only categorized, it's not judging things. It's categorizing what is safe and what's not. And so if you learn that people aren't safe, then you won't trust people and you won't trust yourself. You'll just be in that perpetual state of, I can't trust anybody, and you don't know why. It's because early on, your brain categorized that as people aren't trustworthy. You were given that data and it's just compiling it. I think it's also fascinating that the brain, I love this, your brain makes you better at the things you do the most. And I'd like your listeners just to take a moment and repeat that. The brain makes you better at the things you do the most. Imagine all that self-hate.
Stop for a moment and let our listeners digest that, because that's super profound. Would you like to repeat it once more?
Yeah. And they can say it with me. Is everybody ready?
Yeah.
Brain
makes
you better
at
the things
you
do the most.
So you're talking about neuronal connections and neuroplasticity, aren't you?
Exactly. So if you're scrolling hours a day, guess what your brain thinks it needs to make you better at?
Yeah, that's profound. Because that's one of my pet peeves, actually, that we spend way too much time doing that.
Yeah. But if you're in a narcissistic, if your brain is in a narcissistic relationship with your body, meaning, let's say you have to go to the bathroom, but you're like, no, you don't. You can wait. You don't have to do that. Why would you care for yourself? So this toxic relationship that some of us have with our bodies, with our feelings, with our desires, with our needs, and our brains telling us no, 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 no. You make yourself better at that the more you do it. The more you say that you're not worthy, the more that you prove your unworthiness or prove your quote unquote stupidity or prove your ugliness or prove any of these things, your brain has no judgment. That part of your brain isn't judging. All it's doing is performing to make you better at the things you do the most. That is such a blow-away thing. So just think, if in the morning, this is what I do. This is part of happiness. As soon as I wake up and open my eyes, I go, I'm alive. I mean, I literally yell it. I'm alive. This is amazing. I'm so excited.
And I love what you did with your hands, because, you know, that's what the athletes do when they win.
Right. Power win, right? Mm-hmm. I am excited. I'm alive. It doesn't matter what's happening. 2024, I went through COVID, chemo, and cancer. I'd wake up every morning saying that, because every second is a gift. And the first thing that happens is I tag success. My brain goes, oh, we're alive. This is awesome. We're alive. I am alive. My brain's going to make me better at the things I do the most. Stay alive. So then it's, I do a morning stretch. I open up my body and I think, yes, I nailed that. I go to the bathroom. Yes, I brush my teeth. Woohoo! Literally, by the time I've been up for half an hour, I have racked up at least 30 successful things. And I celebrate every single one of those mundane things that I do like it's a win.
Which is very profound, because those are the things we take for granted.
But I know I'm going to do them. Why not celebrate them? My brain is not judging the fact that I do them every day. It's going, we're a winner. How do I make you more successful at winning?
So I could piggyback on that point and say what you're doing is strengthening your happiness muscle, because a muscle, like any muscle, you got to practice it, strengthen it. And you're talking about being a cancer survivor, an autistic human being, a trauma victim, so many things that you had to deal with. And you had choices to roll over and die, or say, no, I'm alive and I'm going to deal with it, damn it all. That's what you did. You fought it and said no more. But, we all tend to withdraw and duck experiences that we know will make us feel better. I tell people, a simple thing you can do is pick one thing you want to do, commit to it for 10 minutes every day and change it up. Make it something simple. I had a patient say, you know what I did yesterday? I said, no, how would I know? She said, I tidied the kitchen pantry, just one drawer as you suggested, not all, and I felt good. I said, good for you. See what I mean? Another one went for a walk, and I say, savor those experiences, feel it on a visceral level. And that's what you're talking about, aren't you?
I am, absolutely. That's why I was so excited when I got to know you and the Happiness Control Panel, because I do calf raises. I celebrate them. I do something that's anything, and I know these are all good for me things. So I'm celebrating all of the things that help me physically, mentally, spiritually, whatever it is. I don't take them for granted. I really celebrate them because I keep remembering that thing. The brain is going to make me better at the things I do the most. I'm a winner. My brain feels like a winner. It looks for ways for me to win every single thing I do. I was on a reality TV show last week, a couple weeks ago, right? I got picked out of 50,000 people to compete on this entrepreneur reality show.
Well, of course you would be picked. Why not you?
That's what I mean, because I'm a winner. And so, some people find me obnoxious because I'm okay saying the things that I'm good at doing, but they don't understand that that was hard won. Right? For me to celebrate when I'm successful, for me to call out the wins that I have, it was hard won because there were people who would tell me, you don't stop talking about yourself. We don't need to hear you that you were good at that. We don't need to do that. People were afraid to give me kudos because they didn't want my head to get too big or for me to somehow become arrogant. And I think it's a shame in society today that we are remiss and scared to share the amazing things about our life, because I think those are inspiring.
Well, we just hear about it. I mean, I was at a memorial service recently for a friend of mine who died of cancer. And it's interesting that these things were said about her, retired dentist. She died at 70. But I wondered how many of those kudos were given to her when she was alive.
Right. Just think about the people you know and love. If you're holding back saying anything that is a win, compliment, success, love, anything that's positive, why would you hold that back? Why would you not share that? And it's awkward sometimes when I tell somebody at a restaurant, wow, you have the most beautiful eyes ever. Yeah, somebody might be up. Later on, it'll be fine. But, it's like share your success, but also uplift the people that are around you. Just this costs nothing to take a moment and uplift somebody, because you don't know that you're not profoundly changing their life in that moment. And I know for a fact you're changing yours, because I know that feeling of uplifting somebody is generosity, and it's compassion, and it's empathy, and it's a win. It's a win. There's no scarcity in the world. We can all win.
And when you uplift someone else, you uplift yourself.
I feel it. It feels good to me. I do it for selfish as well as other reasons. It's like, if you call that selfish.
I was just going to challenge you, and I didn't. I thought I was very good, and more of us should practice that. The idea of being humble enough to say, this is who I am. You're gifted with certain things, and this is who I am.
Yeah.
Do we need to put ourselves down? I mean, how many clients have you seen who come in with, I'm not good enough?
Oh, just about everybody. I mean, like, I'm always surprised when there is somebody that shows up and realizes their value and leans into their value. Because even if somebody secretly does, it's like, for saying it out loud is somehow especially women, you realize men are much more able to say, and I know this is a stereotype that I'm saying, but I see it a lot. Masculine is almost always empowered to say your successes and to showcase your success and celebrate your success. And women, there's that meme going around, very demure, very conscious. We're supposed to be still like, that's a masculine trait to say that you're good at something.
But do you experience, like I do, and I delve into that with some of my patients, that they experience other women putting them down?
Competition.
For saying something that they're good at, or they did a TEDx talk or whatever. Well, We don't want to hear that.
Right. Because it's not ladylike, it's braggadocious or whatever it is. And women tend to, and that's the biology part, women tend to biologically compete with other women in a different way. And I think beyond our biology is our humanity and compassion. And so I'm not giving people a pass. I'm just saying there's a natural instinct of competition amongst women, especially I think once we get out of the fertility years, I think we start to uplift women a lot more around us.
It's interesting what you say, because the research shows the U shape of happiness, huh? And so you're right, in the 40s, okay, right, everything else, and then you go back up, and now I'm at peace with the world and I'm good. In fact, yesterday I was reading an article in which women in their 60s are saying, I choose to do the solo flight. My husband died, I don't want to go with someone else.
I have actually, so I never thought I'd be one of those celibate women. I love sex. I've had a lot of sex in my life. And when I became single in my 60s or late 50s, I think it was 57, and I'm about to turn 63, I thought there was something wrong with me when all of a sudden I was totally happy not dating. I'm like, what is going on? And then I realized, wait, hold up. My child is grown. I don't have a pet. My life is completely my own. I can just decide I'm heading to Zimbabwe to do a TEDx talk. I'm headed to India to talk to 700,000 people. I don't have to ask somebody, talk to somebody, contemplate somebody. I am living high on top of this single lifetime world, I just want to say. And I think for women who say everything, you lose stuff, like I'm still very sexually interested, but I feel like that's all for me. Like that, everything that I'm doing right now is about me. And I think my best is yet to come. I actually feel as though maybe late bloomer, but I also read studies that 60 to 80, if you really may knock it out of the park. I feel like my best is like that I needed all that wisdom and time in my life, that it's really happening. So I'm feeling pretty awesome.
And you are. And it's interesting what you just said, because it is actually quite valid that as we progress on this journey through life, we can give ourselves finally permission to be happy.
Yeah. And I think also I've faced death several times and other things. I realized as well that, I can look at all the danger. I still do. My brain is analytical. I'm a strategist. I mean, that's what I do. I see patterns and connections. I'm great devil's advocate. Right now I'm helping a multi-million-dollar company strategically take apart their whole company and put it back together because I can see all the bad parts. So that's actually, I learned that that's not a bad thing. It's a great thing, just put in the right context. But that strategy, then the happiness was a choice, has been something I've been choosing all through my life, no matter what kind of devastation. And I've had enough to write 5 books, that each time was, yeah, I could lay here and just die or give up or commit suicide or any of the things that I could do or may have felt momentarily of, because I've definitely been in those dark places. And I also realized, okay, that's like squandering a gift. Because no matter what I believe on what happens after this is the only thing I know for sure right now. And life is a gift. The ability to make choices, even when things are hard, is still a gift. And so I've just developed practices, much like you teach, to create those little successes, to say, what kind of happiness can I eke out today? Right. And the first one is I'm alive. Just the fact that I opened my eyes and I'm still alive is pretty well the bomb.
But what you're teaching us there is the importance of being grateful. You're grateful that you're alive. I mean, you don't take anything for granted. The little things mean a lot to you. And you're in good company, by the way, because Marty Seligman, who is the pioneer in positive psychology, is clinically a depressive sort.
Well, there you go. Okay. And maybe because of that, I also understand, like, the dark, having been down dark holes, I also understand the gratitude of the brightness. And if something extraordinary and fun and exciting happens in the day, that just is like icing on the cake. But literally the ability to open my eyes to, I'm looking out at treetops. I live in a treetop forest here, and I'm in the treetops, and there's hummingbirds and other things. And just a little while ago, the sun peeked through, and there was a little dewdrop that picked up a yellow kind of gold color, and it looked like an ember on fire of the most beautiful gold. Just that perfect moment is enough to make this day be extraordinary. That I got to visually hear something or see something, whatever it is, any sensation. Like, the world is amazing. Like, check it out. Get off your phone. I mean, if you want to be grateful and feel amazing, just look outside. Get outside in the sun. Feel it on your body. Feel it on your head. Like, if you can move your hands, awesome. If you can only move your foot, great. Can you smile? Because I love smiling. That, of course, we know the science behind that, right?
Yeah, but what Tanja is teaching us right now is the word is savoring. And that's what she's just taught us. She's given us an eloquent example of how to savor. What I appreciated with what you've done with us today is to give us hands-on techniques, skills that we can use. And now I'd like you to leave our listeners with your final words, whatever wisdom you want to share with us, and a way that they can reach you as well, please.
Absolutely. I would say challenge yourself to wake up in the morning and have those first thoughts of gratitude, being happy you're alive. And you could say to me, well, Tanja, you must be a morning person. That's not true. It is now, but I trained myself for that. So just know that you can change any aspect that you'd like, but just challenge yourself for 30 days to wake up and not have thought, to make the thoughts be of excitement and happiness and gratitude, at least, of the fact that you have this amazing gift, no matter what condition is going on, right? That. And if you want to find me, it's pretty easy if you know how to spell my name right. Tanja Diamond. I'm on 30 pages of Google. You cannot miss me. If you can spell my name, you will find me for sure. Tanja Diamond. You'll be going like, whoa, she is everywhere. This is true.
Tanja, thank you so much for giving us of your time, expertise, and experience.
It was a delight to be here. And thank you so much for what you do in the world and the fact that you've given a lot of us amazing hope and the ability to actually take on small things to be doable that actually create huge impact. I really appreciate that.
Appreciate your words. Bye now.
Thank you for joining this discussion on happiness. We hope this helps to inspire you to lead a more joyful life. To dive deeper into the subject of happiness, be sure to check out Dr. Neehall's book, Happy is the New Healthy, available as an ebook or hardcover. For additional resources, visit our website at drneehall.com. Until next time, stay happy.